Welcome. Today we're not summarizing just another book. Today we are entering a world of stars, love, roses, childhood, pain, truth, and invisible things that matter more than anything in this world. This is A Little Prince, a book that has sold more than 200 million copies, translated into over 500 languages and dialects, and loved not just by children, but by people of all ages from every part of the world. It is one of the most read, most gifted, most quoted, and most tattooed books in human history. But here's the strange truth. Most people read it and never truly understand it. They think it's just a children's story. They think it's about a boy and a flower. They read it in school and forget it like homework. But this time it's different. I'm going to take you deep inside the meaning of every symbol, every word, every tear, and every lesson that the author wanted to give you when he wrote this book during the war. With a broken heart, with a dream to teach adults the truth they have forgotten as children. This book matters because it's about childhood and how we lose it. It's about love and how we misunderstand it. It's about responsibility and why it hurts. It's about the invisible things, what we feel, what we believe, what we get to someone we love, and what they never see. This story will show you the pain of growing up, the loneliness of being misunderstood, the importance of small things, and the quiet beauty of one rose, one person who becomes your entire world. Why is this video long? Because this is not a summary. This is not a school project. This is a journey. We are going to walk beside the little prince from his planet to Earth, from his confusion to understanding, from his rose to his goodbye. And we are not going to rush it because some books don't need speed. They need soul. If you're learning English, this is perfect for you because The Little Prince is written in simple English but full of deep emotions. You will learn how to understand English through feeling, not just grammar. You'll hear real storytelling, and you'll improve your listening skills without even trying. Now, let's begin. The story opens not with a prince, but with a narrator, a man, a pilot, a grown-up. When he was a little boy, he loved drawing. One day, he drew a picture of a boa constrictor, a giant snake that had swallowed an elephant. It looked like a strange shape, round, closed, mysterious. He showed it to the adults. They said, "Why would you draw a hat?" They couldn't see the elephant inside. They couldn't imagine. They couldn't feel. So, the boy tried again. He drew the snake from inside, showing the elephant inside the belly. But the adult said, "Stop drawing. Do something useful like geography, math, or grammar." So he stopped drawing. He gave up on being an artist. He became a pilot. But deep inside, he never forgot that feeling of being a child full of imagination in a world of adults who only see with their eyes, not with their heart. This opening is a warning that most people lose their vision as they grow. They don't see what things really are. They only see what they're told. And this book will teach us to see again like children. Years later, the narrator becomes a real pilot. But one day, while flying over the Sahara Desert, something goes wrong. His engine breaks. He crashes alone, far from any help. He has only enough water for 8 days. No people, no cities, no hope. He spends the first night sleeping under the stars. Then, just as the sun rises, he hears a small voice. "Please, draw me a sheep." He opens his eyes and sees a little boy with golden hair, a scarf, and eyes that seem to come from another world. No fear, no hello, just draw me a sheep. The narrator is shocked. Who is this child? How did he get here? What is he doing alone in the middle of the desert? But the boy asks again, gently but seriously, "Please draw me a sheep." So the narrator tries. He draws a sheep. No, the boy says, "This one is sick." He tries another. "No, this one has horns. I want a real sheep." The narrator becomes tired. Finally, he draws a simple box and says, "The sheep is inside this box." The boy smiles. "That's exactly what I wanted." This is where the magic begins. For the first time in years, the narrator is talking to someone who sees with imagination, like he once did as a child. And slowly, piece by piece, the little prince begins to tell his story. Where he came from, why he left, and what he's looking for. The little prince doesn't give answers easily. He doesn't directly say, "I'm from planet B, 612. Instead, he speaks like a child carrying a deep sadness. The narrator asks him, "Where are you from?" But the boy doesn't answer. Instead, he asks, when a sheep eats bushes, does it also eat flowers? The narrator is confused. He doesn't realize yet that the prince is not asking about sheep or flowers, but about love, fragility, and the things that make life precious. The little prince asks a simple question that suddenly becomes deeper than it seems. Why do flowers grow thorns if they can't protect themselves? He asks with more emotion each time, almost demanding an answer. Why would a flower try to defend itself if it's still in danger? Why? Tell me. And then, without realizing it, he reveals what's really inside his heart. He's not just asking about flowers. He's thinking about one flower, the one on his tiny planet, the rose he left behind, the rose he loves but doesn't understand. The narrator tries to calm him, saying softly, thorns don't really matter, but the boy becomes upset. His voice rises. You talk like the grown-ups. You care about numbers, screws, engines. But I care about something else, something that matters more. And then his voice breaks. For the first time, he cries. He misses his flower. He feels alone. And even though he looks like just a boy in that moment, he carries the heavy weight of heartbreak, confusion, and helpless love. The narrator, feeling sorry for him, gently holds him and promises, the flower you love is not in danger. I'll draw a muzzle for your sheep and a fence for your flower. Slowly, the little prince calms down. This moment shows us something powerful. Children feel love more deeply than adults. They ask questions not for facts, but to understand the world inside their hearts. And when you laugh at their questions, you hurt their soul. This is a message to every adult. Never kill a child's curiosity, because sometimes their strange little questions are just another way of asking for love. Slowly, the narrator begins to piece together the truth. This boy must have come from a very small planet. Finally, we learn its name, Asteroid B612. But here's something powerful. The narrator explains that when a Turkish astronomer first discovered this asteroid, nobody believed him because he wore traditional Turkish clothes. Later, when he gave the same presentation in a European suit, suddenly people listened. What does this teach us? Adults often believe things not because they are true, but because of appearances. They trust the suit, not the soul. They respect numbers, not meaning. The narrator even explains how grown-ups ask questions like, how old are you? How much money does your father make? How big is your house? But they never ask the real questions. What makes you happy? Do you like butterflies? This part of the story is full of quiet pain. It shows how the world kills magic with seriousness, how people forget imagination, and focus only on what seems useful. But The Little Prince is not about usefulness. It's about the invisible things that truly matter. The narrator even admits, I'm telling you these details not for grown-ups, but for you, the real listener, because you know what matters. You can see with your heart. This is your reminder. Don't become one of them. Stay soft. Stay curious. Stay awake. We now learn more about the Little Prince's planet. It is very small, so small that if he walks just a few steps, he can watch the sunset again and again. But the planet also has a hidden danger, baobab trees. At first, they look harmless, just like tiny plants. But if you don't pull them out early, they grow into huge monsters with roots that can destroy the whole planet. So, every day, the little prince checks his planet carefully and pulls out the baobabs before they grow too strong. It is his daily responsibility. But this lesson is not just about trees. The baobabs are a metaphor. They represent bad habits, negative thoughts, lies, laziness, toxic friends, fear, and self-doubt. They all begin small. One excuse, one ignored dream, one little act of fear, and suddenly they grow so big they destroy your inner world. That's why the Little Prince calls it discipline. And the narrator agrees. If someone is lazy and ignores the baobabs, one day it will be too late. The roots will have taken over. This is one of the biggest lessons of the book. If you want to protect your life, pull out the baobabs early. Don't wait for the problem to grow too big to handle. Fix it now. And this is not advice only for children. It's a wake-up call for every adult. Most lives fall apart not because of one huge disaster, but because small problems were ignored for too long. The narrator ends his part by saying, "I have warned you, and I have drawn the baobabs in great detail, so you never forget." The little prince also shares something beautiful, something deeply emotional, his love for sunsets. He says softly, "I love sunsets. When I'm very sad, I like to watch them." The narrator smiles and agrees, "Yes, sunsets are beautiful." But then the boy says something that makes him pause. "One day, I watched the sunset 44 times. The narrator is shocked. 44? And the prince replies, "You know, when one is very sad, sunsets help. On Earth, we can only watch one sunset each day, unless we travel far. But on his tiny planet, the little prince could move his chair a few steps and watch the sunset again and again. That day, he watched 44 sunsets, which means he must have been deeply, painfully sad. He didn't explain his sadness. He didn't cry. He didn't scream. He just sat silently, watching the sky change colors again and again, as if trying to soothe the pain too heavy for words." This moment teaches us something most people never realize. Sometimes beauty is how we survive sadness. When someone watches too many sunsets, maybe they are not admiring the view. They are trying to stop themselves from falling apart. Meanwhile, the narrator struggles with his broken airplane. He is tired, hot, thirsty, and worried about dying in the desert. In the middle of this, the little prince interrupts with another question. If a sheep eats bushes, does it also eat flowers, even the ones with thorns? The narrator, frustrated and distracted, replies quickly, "Yes, probably." But the boy keeps asking again and again, more urgently. Finally, the narrator loses patience. He snaps, "I don't know. I'm trying to fix something serious here." He shouts in frustration, not understanding why this boy keeps asking silly questions when the situation is so dangerous. The little prince goes quiet, and then he says softly with sadness in his voice, "You talk just like the grown-ups." The boy continues softly, his voice shaking with emotion. "You confuse everything. You mix up everything. You talk about serious things, but you don't know what's truly important." Then he adds, "If someone loves a flower that exists only on one planet, and if that flower might be eaten by a sheep, then that's important. That's serious." And suddenly he begins to cry. He covers his face with his hands, his small shoulders trembling. All the sadness he had hidden through 44 sunsets comes pouring out. "If my flower is gone, it's like all the stars go out." The narrator feels ashamed. He kneels beside him and whispers gently, "Your flower is not in danger. I'll draw a muzzle for your sheep. I'll draw a fence. I'll protect your rose." This moment breaks the heart because, for the first time, we see the prince's pain in full light. He doesn't care about engines, screws, or survival. He cares about one fragile flower, far away on a tiny planet. A flower he left behind. A flower he still loves. And that is how love feels sometimes. Even when you are in danger yourself, all you care about is whether the one you love is safe. Finally, we learn the full story of the rose. She appeared one day, slowly and mysteriously, growing from a seed that no one had ever seen before. At first, the prince was amazed. She was beautiful, elegant, graceful, her petals unfolding like magic. But very soon, she began to speak. She was proud, demanding, dramatic. She would say things like, "You haven't put a screen around me. What if there are tigers?" The prince, confused, tried to explain that there were no tigers. She would complain, "I don't like the wind. I need a glass dome. You must admire me." And the prince, in love and unsure, did everything she asked. But inside, he began to feel doubt, frustration, and pain. Why was she like this? Why wasn't she grateful? Why did she seem to care more about being admired than being close to him? The truth was that the flower was shy. She didn't know how to show love, so she wore pride as her mask. This is one of the most painful lessons in the book. Sometimes the one we love the most is also the one we hurt the most. Not because we want to, but because we don't yet know how to love properly. The rose wasn't cruel. She was insecure. The prince wasn't heartless. He was confused. And in the silence between them, love began to ache. After many days of quiet sadness, the little prince makes a final decision. He will leave his planet. He wants to understand the world, to find out why his heart hurts, to visit other planets and perhaps forget the pain. Before leaving, he tends to his planet one last time. He cleans his 2 active volcanoes, which he uses to cook breakfast. He even cleans the 3rd one, which is extinct. You never know, he says softly. And then comes the hardest part, his farewell to the flower. She is proud as always, but this time softer. She says, I was wrong to treat you badly. Please be happy. Don't put the glass dome over me anymore. I don't need it. I'll be fine. I'm strong. I love you. The prince is surprised. At last she shows her love. But it is too late. He is already leaving. There is a long silence between them. No hugs, no tears, just a quiet, painful goodbye. The flower whispers, don't wait around. You decided to go, so go. And the prince walks away. This is not just a farewell. It is a lesson in real love. The rose does not beg him to stay. She doesn't say, take me with you. You'll regret this. Instead, she simply wishes him happiness. That is enough. Sometimes, true love is letting someone go, even when it breaks your heart. Not controlling, not begging. Just quietly wishing them peace and hiding your pain in the wind. And so, the prince begins his journey. The first planet he visits is ruled by a king. The king wears a long robe and sits on a throne, though there are no subjects anywhere around him. Still, he acts important. When he sees the prince, he declares, "Ah, a subject." The prince replies politely, "Excuse me, sir, may I sit down?" The king says, "I order you to sit down." The prince asks questions. "Do you rule this planet? Do you rule the stars too?" The king answers confidently, "Yes, I rule everything." The prince is amazed and asks, "Can you order the sun to set?" The king replies, "Yes, but I must wait for the right moment. Then it will obey." The little prince realizes that the king only gives orders that will happen anyway, so he can pretend to always be obeyed. Finally, the boy says, "Can you order me to leave now?" And the king answers, "I order you to leave, but come back soon." This king represents the adult obsession with control. He wants respect and power, but he has no one to rule. He pretends to command the universe, but in truth, he is utterly alone. His power is empty. He orders things that would happen anyway, just to feel important. This is a lesson about false authority, about people who want titles without responsibility, who want followers without connection, who want to rule but never learn how to lead. The little prince sees through it. He is polite, but he leaves. He is not looking for thrones or crowns. He is looking for meaning. On the next planet lives a vain man. He wears fancy clothes, smiles widely, and poses like a statue. When he sees the prince, he says, "Ah, an admirer." The boy is confused. The vain man instructs, "Clap your hands." The prince claps. The man bows. Again and again, clap, bow, clap, bow. The prince asks, "Do you really admire me?" The vain man answers, "Of course." But when asked what that even means, he cannot explain. He just craves applause from anyone, for anything. This is a sad but familiar image. We all know people like this. Those who live only for attention, who want likes, followers, and compliments, but have nothing real inside. No depth, no substance, just a mask. The vain man is not evil. He is simply empty. He has mistaken applause for love. But love is not clapping. It is not performance. It's not about being seen. It's about being known. The little prince soon gets bored. He sees that the man doesn't care about him, only about himself. So he leaves again, still searching, still lonely, still trying to understand why people become like this. The next place he arrives is small, lonely, and dark. He finds a man sitting quietly with a bottle in his hand, and empty bottles scattered all around. The prince asks, "What are you doing?" The man replies, "I'm drinking." The prince asks, "Why are you drinking?" The man answers, "To forget." "Forget what?" "To forget that I'm ashamed." "Ashamed of what?" "Ashamed of drinking." The prince is speechless. He doesn't understand this kind of adult. He simply leaves quietly and sadly. This moment is deeply symbolic. The drunkard is not just a joke, but a reflection of people trapped in cycles of pain. People who run from their problems but end up back in the same place. People who do things that hurt them, then try to escape the shame by doing it again. It's not only about alcohol. It's about all forms of self-destruction. Spending money to feel good, then regretting it. Hurting others, then hurting yourself. Eating too much, lying too much, scrolling too much, shouting too much, then saying, I can't help it. This is not evil. This is pain. The lesson here is not to laugh at someone's weakness, but to understand the sadness behind it. And to remember, don't let shame become your cage. Because if you do, you'll go in circles forever, just like the drunkard. The little prince then finds himself on another strange planet. A businessman sits there, endlessly counting. He writes numbers over and over, never looking up. When the prince greets him, the man barely responds, saying he's too busy. The boy asks what he's doing, and the man replies, I'm counting the stars. Why? Because I own them. The prince is confused. How can you own the stars? The man explains, because I thought of it first, that makes them mine. I keep them safe by writing the numbers in a book. This is not just a man counting stars. This is greed without joy. The businessman doesn't look at the stars, doesn't feel their beauty, doesn't love them. He only wants to claim them. The prince says something wise. I have a flower. I water her. I take care of her. She's mine because I love her. But you do nothing for the stars. This is a lesson about life today. You don't own what you do not love. Having something doesn't make it yours. Loving, caring, and being present, that is what makes something truly yours. Next, the prince meets a lamplighter on his tiny planet. There's only one street lamp, and the lamplighter's job is to light it at night and extinguish it in the morning. The prince finds this charming at first, but then he notices that the planet spins faster and faster. Now a day lasts only 1 minute. The lamplighter must light and put out the lamp every single minute. He has no time to rest, no time to breathe. The prince watches him work endlessly. Light, blowout, light, blowout. He asks why the man doesn't stop, but the lamplighter answers, orders are orders. He is kind and loyal, but trapped in a meaningless routine. The little prince admires him, though, because unlike the others, the lamplighter still thinks of others. Even though he is stuck, he continues to bring light to the world every minute. This teaches us something powerful. There's nobility in service, but don't lose your soul in blind duty. Yes, light the world, but also ask yourself if your work still holds meaning, and remember to rest. The prince then lands on a much larger planet, where he meets a geographer, a man surrounded by books, maps, and papers. Finally, someone who studies the world. The prince thinks, maybe this man knows about oceans, deserts, and mountains. But the geographer surprises him. He says, I don't know. I'm not an explorer. I only write down what explorers tell me. The boy is shocked. You don't go see for yourself? No, replies the geographer. I'm too important for that. The prince tells him about his flower, but the geographer dismisses it. We don't record flowers. They are ephemeral. The prince asks what that means, and the man explains something that doesn't last. Suddenly, the prince grows silent. He realizes that his flower, the one he left behind, might not live forever. She's delicate, temporary, fragile, and for the first time, fear for her fills his heart. This chapter reveals another truth. The geographer represents people who collect knowledge but never live life. They have maps but no memories. They know facts but have never touched the ocean or watched the sunset with their own eyes. They dismiss what is temporary, forgetting that some of the most beautiful things in life are fleeting. A flower, a sunset, a moment of love, even a goodbye. The prince now understands. You don't wait until something disappears to realize it was everything. With this in his heart, he decides it's time to travel to his next and final stop, Earth. Do you want to keep rewriting the whole story this way? Flowing narrative, no numbers, like a long storytelling script for your video? The world is full of businessmen, millions of vain people, and billions of adults who have forgotten how to see. It is full of rules, wars, borders, routines, systems, numbers, and noise. but it's also full of beauty, life, and secrets, if you know where to look. The narrator gives us a picture of just how crowded Earth is. There are 2 billion adults, and they all stood close together like sardines. They would take up a space the size of a city square. In short, the Earth is big. And yet, even in this massive, complicated planet, the little prince lands quietly, invisible, and unnoticed in the middle of the desert, just like the narrator did years later. He doesn't land in a city, not in a palace, not among people. He lands alone. And that's symbolic. Because even though Earth is full of people, most people feel alone. We live in crowds, but we are disconnected. We are surrounded by others, but still searching for someone to understand us. This quiet entry sets up the most powerful moments that are coming next, because now the little prince is here on Earth and the story is about to change forever. As the prince walks through the endless sand, he meets a golden snake. It is thin, smooth, and silent. It looks small but feels powerful. The prince says, "Good evening. Where are the people?" The snake replies, "In the desert. You are alone here." The prince agrees, "I am alone too." The snake looks at him and says, "I can help you go back to where you came from." The prince is confused. "You can? How?" The snake replies, "Anyone I touch, I send them back to the earth they came from." The prince says, "You speak in riddles." The snake smiles. "I solve them all." This seems like a mysterious short conversation, but it is very important because the snake represents death. Not in a scary or violent way, but in a quiet, spiritual, gentle way. The snake is not here to harm the prince. It's a symbol, a promise, a way back home when the time comes. And the prince understands that. He doesn't fear the snake. He just knows there's a path home when he is ready. In stories and ancient symbols, snakes often represent transformation, transition between life and death, a guardian between worlds. This moment is not the end, but the beginning of something much bigger. The prince doesn't use the snake yet, but now he knows there's a way to return, not physically, but spiritually, to his flower, to his planet, to the love he left behind. And you, the listener, must remember this. We all have a snake in our story, a moment of return, not to the past, but to the truth. As the little prince walks across the earth, he finds a flower with only 3 petals. She is fragile, quiet, and lives completely alone in the desert. The prince bends down and asks her gently, "Where are the people?" The flower softly replies, "People? I saw a few many years ago, but they have no roots and the wind blows them away." The prince is puzzled. The flower says no more. This moment is short, but heavy with symbolism. This flower is not like his rose. She is not proud. She's not poetic. She's not mysterious. She's tired, small, simple, and alone. She tells the truth with just one sentence. People have no roots. The wind blows them away. She means people go from place to place, from goal to goal, from relationship to relationship, but never truly stay still, never grow roots, never belong to one place or one person. And because of that, they are always chasing but never anchored. The flower disappears into the silence of the desert, and the prince walks on. Because sometimes in life, you meet people who speak few words, but those words shake you forever. The little prince then climbs a high mountain, hoping to see the whole world from above, and maybe hear a real voice. On his planet, he had 3 tiny volcanoes that barely reach his knees. But here on Earth, the mountains are huge. He climbs and climbs and finally shouts into the wind, "Hello!" A voice answers, "Hello, hello, hello." He shouts again, "Who are you?" And the voice repeats, "Who are you? Who are you?" The prince frowns. "Be my friend. I am alone." And the echo repeats, "I am alone. I am alone." He listens carefully, but the only voice he hears is his own, bouncing back. This moment is one of the most painful because it shows something most people feel at some point. The pain of talking to the world and hearing only your own voice. You want connection. You want someone to reply. You want love, understanding, presence. But instead, you get echoes. People don't really answer you. They just reflect your voice back to you. And in that moment, the prince realizes Earth is big, but still lonely. That's a feeling most people today can relate to. You message someone and they reply with one word. You try to open your heart and get silence. You try to love and feel alone in return. The prince doesn't cry. He doesn't scream. He just keeps walking. Because sometimes you have to keep going through the silence before you find someone who truly listens. And now comes the moment that breaks the little prince's heart. He's walking through the fields, still thinking of his rose back home. In his mind, she is special, unique, one of a kind. She told him, "I'm the only rose in the universe." And he believed her. But then he turns a corner and finds an entire garden full of roses. Hundreds, thousands, all blooming, all beautiful, all like his rose. He stands there frozen. He says quietly, "They all look like her." And then with a heavy voice, he says, "I thought I was rich because I had one unique flower, but I have nothing." She's not unique. She's just like all of them. The pain hits him. His heart breaks. He lies in the grass and cries. This moment is about betrayal. Not because his rose lied, but because he built his identity around someone who made him feel special. And now he doesn't know who he is. If she's not unique, then maybe our love wasn't special. Maybe I wasn't special either. This is how many people feel after heartbreak. You love someone. You trusted them. You gave them your whole heart. And then one day you see them move on, or you meet someone just like them, or you realize they weren't as rare as you thought, and it destroys you. But this moment, this painful garden, is not the end. It's the beginning of the greatest lesson the little prince will ever learn. He just doesn't know it yet, because soon he will meet the fox. The little prince continues walking across the earth, and suddenly he meets a fox. Not a dangerous animal, not a wild threat, but a gentle, curious creature. The prince says, "Play with me. I'm so sad." The fox replies, "I cannot play with you. I am not tamed." The prince asks, "What does that mean?" "Tame." And the fox explains something that changes the entire story. To tame means, to create a bond means this. You become special to me and I become special to you. Together, we create something that didn't exist before. To me, the fox says, "You are just a little boy like 100,000 other boys. And I am just a fox like 100,000 other foxes. But if you tame me, we will need each other. You will be unique in the world to me." The little prince listens, slowly starting to understand. "I'm beginning to understand," he says. So he sits with the fox every day, at first from a distance, then a little closer, then closer still. Each day, the fox teaches him, "You must come the same time each day. That way, my heart will begin to expect you." Slowly, the two of them tame each other. They don't say much. They just sit together in the grass, quietly, feeling the connection grow between them. And then, the time comes to goodbye. The little prince says, "It's time for me to go." The fox answers, "Yes, and now I will cry." The prince is surprised. "But it was your idea. I never meant to hurt you." The fox smiles with sadness and says, "Yes, but because you tamed me, my life is full of color now." Then the fox gives him a gift, a secret. It is only with the heart that one can see clearly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. And finally, you become responsible for what you have tamed. This is not just an important lesson. It is the most powerful one in the entire story. The fox is not teaching the prince how to play. He is teaching him how to love. Love is not about owning. It is not about appearances. It is not about being the only one. Real love is built slowly through time, presence, rituals, and understanding. When you give someone your time, when you wait for them, when you grow with them, they become irreplaceable. With that, the little prince remembers his rose. She may not be the only rose in the universe, but she is the one he tamed, and that makes her unique. This is a moment he truly understands. My rose is important because of the time I gave her, because of how I cared for her, because of how we tamed each other. He is no longer confused. He is no longer angry. He is no longer lost. The fox's wisdom answers every question he had in his heart. After saying goodbye to the fox, the little prince walks again and meets a railway switchman, a man who controls the trains that pass through. The man explains, "I send trains to the right or left. Some go one way, others go the opposite. The prince watches the trains go by. Inside, he sees passengers looking out the windows, children pressing their faces against the glass, while adults stare ahead, busy, serious, and tired. The prince asks, "Where are they going?" The switchman replies, "They don't even know. They're just in a hurry." Then the prince asks, "Why are the children looking outside?" The man answers, "Because children always know what they're looking for." This might seem like a quiet moment, but it carries another powerful message. The trains represent the speed of life. Everyone is in a rush, always moving, always changing direction. But no one asks, "Why am I in such a hurry? Where am I going? What am I chasing?" Adults chase money, work, status, and things, but they lose connection, presence, and peace. Children, however, look outside. They see beauty. They ask questions. They still know how to feel. This moment reminds us that as we grow up, we forget how to look outside. We stop seeing what matters and only move faster. But speed is not success. Sometimes the most beautiful parts of life come when you stop the train and simply look out the window. As he walks farther, the little prince meets a strange man, a sales clerk who sells pills that stop thirst. "Take one pill a week," the clerk says, "and you won't feel thirsty anymore." The prince is confused. "Why do you sell this?" The man replies, "It saves time. People don't have to look for water. They save 53 minutes a week." The prince thinks for a moment, then answers softly, "If I had 53 extra minutes, I would walk slowly toward a spring of fresh water." That one sentence is worth remembering for life, because this moment teaches us something true about the modern world. People try to eliminate every discomfort. They want shortcuts. They want speed. They want to save time. But they don't know why they are saving it. They forget that some of life's most beautiful moments come from the journey, not the destination. The Little Prince shows us what really matters. He values presence, nature, stillness, wonder, the feeling of thirst, and then the joy of drinking water. And this reminds us of the truth. Today, we live in a world of thirst pills, quick fixes, fast food, fast money, fast success. But we forget the beauty of being human, of thirsting, and then sipping slowly from a real spring. At this point, the story returns to where it began. The narrator, the pilot, is still in the desert with the little prince. His plane has been broken for many days. His water is gone. He is weak, tired, and close to dying. But the little prince does not panic. He simply says, "Let's go look for a well." The narrator is surprised. We are in the middle of the desert. You don't find wells in the sand. But the prince keeps walking. His steps are slow. His eyes are calm. His heart is full of silence, but not fear. And so, the narrator follows him. As they walk, he looks at the boy's face and suddenly realizes something heartbreaking. The prince looks fragile, like a little candle that might blow out at any moment. This chapter is not only about physical thirst. It is about spiritual hunger, loneliness, and the quiet pain we carry inside. It is about the search for something pure and life-giving, not just water, but meaning. The narrator begins to see that the little prince is not of this world. He is delicate, almost like he is made of light, not flesh. The desert, the silence, the thirst, all of it is pushing them towards something deeper than survival. They are not just looking for water. They are looking for truth, something real, something refreshing, something that reminds them that being alive still means something. After walking all night under the stars, finally, as the sun rises, they find a well. But it is not just a hole in the sand. It is an old stone-built well with a rope and pulley, like something from a fairy tale. The little prince smiles. The narrator pulls the rope, and the sound of the bucket rising is music in the silence of the desert. They drink, and it is not just refreshing. It feels holy. It is not just water. It is a gift, a reminder that even in the deepest dryness, there is still something pure waiting beneath the surface. And then the little prince says something unforgettable. What makes the desert beautiful is that it hides a well somewhere. This single sentence holds one of the most powerful truths in the entire story. What makes something truly beautiful? Not its surface, not its decoration, but the invisible gift hidden inside it. Just like people, They may look cold or quiet, but inside they carry love, pain, and meaning. Life may seem dry or meaningless, but it hides purpose if you dig deep enough. The desert may look dead, but it holds living water for those who keep walking. That's exactly what this chapter teaches us. Beauty comes from the invisible things, from the quiet things, from what we can only feel with the heart. As they rest, the prince says, "The people where you live grow 5,000 roses in one garden, but they still don't find what they're looking for. And yet what they seek could be found in a single rose or a drop of water." Let that sink in. This is the truth of modern life. We search everywhere. We chase everything. We want more. But we forget sometimes the thing we need most is already with us. Love, a small friend, a glass of water, a moment of silence. And that is what the narrator finally understands. He is no longer just a pilot. He has become a student of the prince's wisdom. And the prince, quietly, is preparing to return. The goodbye. Now the story begins to break your heart. The narrator repairs his plane and tells the prince, "You'll be safe now. I can go back home." But the prince is not smiling. He's quiet. "I'm going back too," he says. "Back to my planet, back to my flower." The narrator doesn't understand. "What do you mean?" Then the prince explains softly. He has a plan. He will let the snake, the same golden snake from earlier, bite him gently, so that his spirit can leave his body and return to his planet. The narrator is horrified. "No, that's dangerous. That's death." But the prince calmly answers, "Don't be afraid. It will only look like I'm dying. My body will fall, but that's just a shell. I'll be going home. You mustn't come when it happens. It will make you sad, and you'll think I'm gone. But I'm not. My body is too heavy to take with me." This is one of the most emotional scenes in all of literature. The prince is not afraid of death, because for him, death is not an ending, it is a return. He is going back to his rose, to care for her, to be with the one he tamed. He is not running away. He is going home. And what makes this chapter so powerful is that it is not dramatic. It is quiet, gentle, full of love and peace. That night, the prince walks alone into the desert. The narrator watches from a distance. The snake bites. The prince falls silently. No cry, no fear, just stillness. The narrator runs to him, but the boy's body is already still. He kneels beside him and weeps like a man who has lost his child, his best friend, his teacher, his light. The chapter ends with goodbye, with loss, with love so deep that words cannot describe it. The star that laughs. Time passes. The narrator, the pilot, has returned home. His plane was repaired. His body is alive. But his soul is forever changed, because the little prince is gone. Or at least his body is gone. The narrator tells us what happened that morning after the snake's bite. He searched for the boy's body, but it had disappeared. Gone. No footprints, no sign, nothing. And in that moment he knew the little prince had gone home. Truly home. Back to his planet. Back to his flower. Back to the tiny world where his heart belonged. But the story doesn't end there. Before leaving, the prince gave the narrator a gift. He said, "At night, look up at the sky. You'll see the stars, and one of them will be mine. You won't know which one, but it doesn't matter, because every time you look, you'll hear my laugh, and it will be as if all the stars are laughing." The narrator says, "The stars are not silent anymore. When I look up, I hear a child's laughter in the sky." This final chapter is about grief, memory, love, an invisible thread that never breaks even after someone is gone. The little prince didn't give the narrator money or advice or a gift you can hold. He gave him something eternal, a way to remember, a way to love even after loss, a way to see the world differently forever. And now, the narrator passes that gift to us. He says, if you ever travel to the desert and you meet a little boy with golden hair who doesn't answer your questions directly, you'll know it's him. Please write to me, because I never want to forget. The story ends with drawing, a picture of the landscape where the prince fell. The narrator says, this is the place where he disappeared. Don't forget it. He draws it like a map so that you can find your way back to. And he finishes with one final thought. Look at the sky. Ask yourself, did the little prince return to his planet? Did he go back to his flower? He doesn't answer. He leaves it for you to feel. to look up at the stars tonight and listen for the laugh. Now that you've heard the whole story, now that you've walked beside the prince, drunk water from the well, tamed the fox, and watched the stars, let me tell you what the story is really about. Not as a summary, but as a reminder for your life. This book is not for children. It is for every grown-up who lost their imagination, who forgot how to love softly, who walked away from someone they once tamed, who believed money was more important than presents, who counted numbers but never watched sunsets, who forgot how to sit quietly in the grass, or who stood at a window hearing only echoes. This book is about your Rose. Yes, your Rose. The one person in your life that you tamed, the one you gave time to, the one who is not perfect but is special, not because they're rare, but because you made them yours. And now you understand you are responsible for what you tame, even if they're far away, even if you said goodbye, even if they live only in your memory. This book is about the fox inside all of us, the part of us that whispers, "Please tame me, make me feel seen, make me feel loved, make me feel special in a world full of noise." And when someone tames us, we cry because they touched our soul. But we don't regret it because now the fields are golden, the stars are laughing, and the desert is beautiful. So what should you do now? Maybe tonight, step outside, look up at the sky, find the brightest star, close your eyes, ask yourself, is that the prince's star? Is he laughing now? Or is it the face of someone I love, someone I miss, someone I tamed, still shining from above? And if you feel a little tear fall down your cheek, then you've understood the story, and it will stay with you forever. Thank you for listening to this journey, not just with your ears, but with your heart. If this story moved you, if it reminded you of someone, if it made you want to love more gently, live more slowly, and see with a heart, then this was not just a book summary. This was a message, and now it belongs to you. So please, don't forget the prince. Don't forget the fox. Don't forget the rose. And never forget the sky. Because now, whenever you look at the stars, they will laugh just for you.